Yes, here we are. Sportsbet Betting Inside today. Pauly and Teddy weekend preview edition. Big game breakdown. All NFL games tonight. The Steelers and the Giants. Saturday we got the Cowboys and the Rams, and Sunday it's the Seahawks and the Chargers. So we'll go through those. No deep dive today. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. 7 preseason games yesterday. A tough beat if you had the Saints +3. Kaiser threw a 48-yard touchdown with 1:52 left on 4th and 2. You're just supposed to get the first down and then kick the game-winning field goal there and not cover the number. Tough beat for the play of the day. Kaiser, 11 of 18 for 184 and a score as they win 20-14.
Now, one thing we want to be very careful about doing is worrying about guys' aggregate statistics in preseason games. Kaiser, yeah, put up big numbers. Had a big completion on 4th down. Very, very tough beat for New Orleans, who, I don't know if they were the right side. They certainly were in the wrong side in that ball game. But everything that Kaiser was doing, and we're going to talk about this with Mitch Trubisky, we're going to talk about this with a number of the backup quarterbacks, everything that Kaiser was doing was coming against guys who are not likely to be on an NFL roster come opening day.
I'd rather be good against the backups than stink with the ones, and there was a lot of that on Thursday. Bad beat again, the Bears, 17-10 lead in the 4th quarter. The Broncos scored 2 long touchdowns on 3rd and long. The last touchdown was an inside handoff on 3rd and 22, and the kid broke it. Simeon and Lynch were terrible, but the Broncos get the money anyways.
Well, Simeon was okay. He wasn't great. He was okay. He left the game with a 10-0 lead. Paxton Lynch was not pretty, but it's certainly worth noting that Denver's undrafted rookie free agent 3rd-string quarterback Kyle Slaughter had more yards through the air than Simeon and Lynch combined, 94-93, on 10 fewer pass attempts. Tough beat if you had Chicago. I was lucky I had the other side of that ball game in my pocket. Denver, not the right side. And look, Trubisky was fantastic, but it's worth noting, and impressive when he came on the field for his 4th quarter 2-minute drive. But the Broncos' 2nd-string defense, in particular the Broncos' 3rd-string defense, that's not their 1st-string defense. Tough beat for Chicago backers, but let's not award Mitch Trubisky the quarterback Rookie of the Year award just yet.
Well, Mike Glennon, 2 of 8, 20 yards, and a pick 6. Not good. Another bad beat. One baseball to talk about, Angels and Mariners, under 7.5. This was tough because it was 3-0 in the bottom of the 8th. Bud Norris couldn't close it. He gave up 2 home runs. And then Diaz walked the bases loaded in the top of the 9th, and Trout brought them all home with a double.
Yeah, both teams with bad save situations. And Norris came in to attempt a 4-out save for the 2nd time in a week. It didn't work. And then Seattle went with Edwin Diaz for the 3rd straight day. He didn't have it. Obviously, Trout with that 3-run double in the bottom of the 9th turns those over 7.5 or under 7.5 tickets into dust over cashes. Tough beat for underbettors.
All right, this one hurt my feelings. I would make the same bet. The Redskins +1 went off the favorite -2. I had one pro bettor tell me it's one of the worst quarterback rotations he's seen. As far as the second half, it was Dustin Vaughn and Woodrum for the Ravens, but they get the money. Redskins are high on Sudfeld, the kid out of Indiana. He was only 5 of 12 for 68 yards. Redskins lose 23-3.
Yeah, bettors wanted to fade the injury-riddled Ravens in a, quote, meaningless week 1 preseason game, but it didn't happen. Baltimore showed, and Washington didn't. Redskins, not a team loaded with quality depth, and they had most of their key skill position players out. The end result of that, 8 first downs, 138 total yards in the ballgame. It was Baltimore's defense that dominated, and we're talking about coaching trends. John Harbaugh, now 25-12 straight up, 24-13 against the spread in preseason football. That is an impressive track record, but not the only one we're going to talk about on today's show.
Here it is. Bet for the books. Mike Zimmer. All he does is win. 13-1 straight up in the preseason. 12-2 against the spread. Vikings went from +1 to -3, and it wasn't pretty, but they win again on the road in Buffalo.
Yeah, and there was heavy Minnesota money. It wasn't just the wise guys. The public loaded up on the Vikings. Everyone's familiar now with what Mike Zimmer's track record is in the month of August. As you mentioned, 13-1 straight up, 12-2 ATS. those are numbers that are going to attract betting attention, a ton of betting attention towards Minnesota last night. And all that money cashed in. That was a very bad result for the house. I'm confident. Talk to bookmakers around town. They're going to say this was the worst game of the night for the bookies.
Two more in baseball. 30-cent move on the White Sox. How about this? They sweep the Astros. Houston's lost 7 of 9. White Sox went from plus 175 to plus 145. They won in extra innings.
Yeah, and first time in over a month that the books really had a significant White Sox liability. And of course, the White Sox came through. Carlos Rodon has really developed a bit of a following. He kept them in the game. And then Moncada hit the home run in the bottom of the ninth to tie it, then drove in the winning run with a single in the 11th. We might have been able to use this one in the bad beats, but you know what? It was worse for the books when it comes to bad beats. White Sox get the money. White Sox get the win. Bookmakers cry into their beers.
And one more, the Pirates, 15-cent move, closed $1.65, and the total was bet up from 9.5 to 10. And Cole didn't have much, but a 7-5 win for the Pirates as it goes over, and the Pirates get the money.
Yeah, I mean, they're betting against Drew Verhagen as a starter. And through 2 starts, it's been ugly both times. 8 runs, 13 hits, only lasted 8.2 innings, only 4 strikeouts. Verhagen hasn't fooled the markets. He hasn't fooled opposing batters. And the bookmakers took a bath with Pittsburgh and over money in yesterday's action.
All right, up next, big game breakdown. 3 games to go over in the NFL, all on NFL Network, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We'll get to all that coming up on SportsBet. Betting Insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Go to SBRodds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
Back on SportsBet, Betting Insight today, Pauly and Teddy. Big game breakdown coming up. But first, thanks to BetOnline. And BetOnline wants to pay for your $100 pay-per-view to Mayweather and McGregor. Someone wins $100 every day. Follow on Twitter and retweet to enter. Need an account to qualify. It's through August 26th. They'll be giving away the $100 pay-per-view. Piece of cake. Simply retweet to enter, and you can win. Let's start with the game Friday night. NFL Network, Steelers and the Giants. Giants 3.5 at home, 37 the total. Mike Tomlin 3-14 straight up the last 4 years in the preseason. No Roethlisberger, no Antonio Brown. Josh Dobbs, the kid out of Tennessee, will get the start. A lot to like here. And with the Giants, with what you're talking about with Pittsburgh, and we have a quarterback battle behind Eli Manning between Geno Smith and Josh Johnson. They're not going to get rid of Webb, who they took out of Cal. So the winner going to be likely the backup, and the loser likely to get cut.
Yeah, I mean, look, let's start with the Pittsburgh side of the equation. All right. You have a veteran head coach in Mike Tomlin. When it comes to job security, Tomlin's pretty secure. Winning or losing games in August is not something that he is particularly worried about. And that's been very, very clear when you look at the Steelers' point spread results in every recent preseason. You talked about 3-14 straight up. They're 3-14 against the spread in those games. And oh, by the way, in the 14 losses, you know how many point spread covers they have, Pauly? A grand total of 0. That includes 0-4 straight up, 0-4 against the spread mark in week 1 action.
Interesting. All right. So what? Good numbers there. So what do you think of the Giants' offense? First, let's start with the Steelers. Going to know what are the Steelers going to do on offense?
Well, I mean, as you talked about, there's going to be no Ben Roethlisberger in this game for Pittsburgh. There's going to be no Landry Jones in this game for Pittsburgh. So their top 2 QBs are sitting. The third stringer, Josh Dobbs, he's going to start. He's expected to play the first half, followed by Bart Houston, the kid out of Wisconsin, who, what do we call him? A never has been, never will be. Dobbs is the kind of guy that we like. He's been in the system. He's going to be able to scramble out of the pocket. He's got something to prove in Pittsburgh. Houston, not so much. So it's not one of these type of ball games we can expect the Steelers offense to be marching up and down the field on Friday night.
So we have that battle for the backup in New York. What's McAdoo saying about how much work Eli will get?
Well, I mean, McAdoo's really not talking about the quarterbacks at all. He's talking about playing a physical style. Coming out and running the football is important to us. And it starts with first time we hit the field together in a team environment. I think the offensive line is developing confidence in each other. They're coming off the ball. There have been some shots of the offense knocking a hole in the defense in practice, and that's encouraging. starting center, Weston Richburg, talking about how the physical nature of what the Giants are trying to do this evening. Quote, we want to set the tone so we can open up other things. We have lots of weapons we want to be able to use. And if we get the running game going, that opens that up to be a little bit dangerous. So when it comes to QB rotation for the G-men, it may not be as much about the QB rotations as it is about their goal to play a smash mouth style tonight. That certainly something to consider. But when it comes to the QB situation, Geno Smith, Josh Johnson, fighting for the QB job, they are going to get most of the playing time this evening. Davis Webb, the rookie, likely to get some second half playing time as well. That's not an optimal scenario for a favorite laying more than a field goal in a preseason game. That rookie Davis Webb could be the difference between a point spread cover and not. The Giants are on the precipice in the fourth quarter, although given Pittsburgh's track record in these games, it's definitely, they could be behind by margin at that point, and it wouldn't shock.
Giants using one tidbit here. They're using cross coaching, having players work at times with coach of the other units. McAdoo quoted, also helps players get in a room and hear how the other side of the ball breaks them down fundamentally, the fundamentals that they're being taught across the ball, and then how they're game planning to beat the individual on the other side of the ball. Helps to hear how opponents are going to try to coach you and beat you as a man. It helps you work on your weaknesses. End quote there. They made the playoffs last year, won 11 games. They pick up Brandon Marshall, made some nice moves. Ezekiel Elliott, as we tape this, likely to be suspended. So Giants could be the team to beat in that division. Saturday night, NFL Network, Cowboys and the Rams. Bet online number. Rams, Cowboys are 37.5 the total. There are 14 coaches older than Goff and McVay combined, age of 54. You get Wade Phillips to come in as a defensive coordinator. Fossil's terrific with special teams, and this could be it for Goff. He has to do something in this year, or McVay will just say, we're going to have to go in a different direction, because McVay wasn't there when they drafted Goff, who was absolutely lost, and their offense was terrible last year.
Well, the thing that McVay did, and I like a first-year, first-time coach who's willing to go with a lot of long-time veteran assistants. Hey, let's get some brain trust in this room to help me out. You talked about Wade Phillips on D and John Fossil with the special teams. What about the longtime veteran coaches on the offensive side? Matt LaFleur as the offensive coordinator, Greg Olson coaching the quarterbacks, Aaron Cromer on the offensive line, Skip Peete coaching the running backs. These aren't new guys. These are veteran position coaches that are all settled in LA this season. So while it's a very young coach and a very young quarterback, the brain trust for the Rams is pretty darn good.
I can't believe they went with Greg Olson. Oh, my God. He was terrible in Oakland and Jacksonville as well and got fired. Now, we'll see. Mannion's going to be better than Goff. I think that's going to happen in the preseason, too. That's something to factor in when you're handicapping these games. The third string is Dan Orlovsky, known for running out of the back of the end zone. Decent experience for number 3. 6 different teams, though. 27 games in 12 starts. Not much of a trip for the Cowboys. Oxnard, where they train, is 65 miles from the LA Coliseum. What do you think about the Cowboys? You know how Garrett's got a horrible record the last 3 years straight up as well.
Yeah, I mean, let's start with the Rams side of the equation real quick, because you talk about the QB rotation, and LA has a bet on QB rotation all the way. We know that Goff has struggled. All right, they're going to give Goff a chance to not struggle. It's important for them as a team to have Goff look good. And I'm talking about Mannion, maybe every bit as good as Goff, if not better. He certainly was in the preseason a year ago. He's going to get ample playing time. And then what do you want from a third-string quarterback in the preseason? You want a guy who's been there before and can read a defense. You know, Orlovsky may not have the mobility that we like from third-string quarterbacks, but he certainly has the arm. And you're, talking about a guy that's made a dozen NFL starts. He's been at 6 different teams in 27 games. He is the type of guy who generally we like to be betting on in these preseason games in the second half, particularly when his team's an underdog. Now, Dallas, as you mentioned, no trip for Dallas. They do their training camp in California, a lot more comfortable there than it is in Texas or Oklahoma in the summertime. But the big question for the Cowboys here, how much is Dak Prescott going to play? The Pro Bowl left tackle, Tyron Smith, he's not going this evening, or on Saturday, I should say. So when you're talking about now a Cowboys offensive line that is great, but is missing some key pieces here in August, that's going to affect how much you're going to put your franchise quarterback in harm's way. I don't expect we're going to see a whole lot of Dak Prescott in this ball game. But for Dallas, maybe they got to find out if Luke McCown is better than Kellen Moore. Moore, not a guy with a whole bunch of upside. Not like McCown does either. But for the Cowboys, once again, the veteran QBs behind the starter do offer some bet on potential. And of course, the Cowboys also a team that had played in the Hall of Fame game. They've got a game under their belts. But really, that's the only reason I can think of why Dallas is laying a full field goal in this one. The fact they've got a game in already and LA doesn't.
All right, up next, we close it out with the Sunday game on NFL Network, the Seahawks and the Chargers, as they open up StubHub Center, and we get to the play of the day on SportsBet. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.
Wrapping it up on SportsBet, Betting Insight today, weekend preview edition. We finish out big game breakdown. Powered by BetOnline, Sunday NFL Network, Seahawks and the Chargers. Chargers at home. Yes, 1.5, 37.5 the total. For both weekend games, the Chargers and the Rams practice together this week. Saturday at StubHub Center, Wednesday in Irvine. Things got heated as a couple of fights, as usually the case. We'll see what happens here. Regular season, I don't know what to expect. Who's going to have the tickets? The fans aren't excited that the Chargers are now in Los Angeles. It's embarrassing for the league, in my opinion. StubHub holds about 25,000 people. Remember, it was a home field disadvantage last year when Rivers had to go to a silent snap count. So we'll see how the Chargers adjust now. And a lot of players will commute and make the drive to Carson, if you can believe it, Teddy.
But yeah, I mean, Rivers is talking about taking a car every day. It's a 90-minute drive, no traffic. But for a game like this, obviously that's not a key issue, even though, hey, we're talking about rush hour in LA. We're talking about the issues for Dallas getting there to their ball game from Oxnard. There could be issues here for the Chargers players. But, and we talk about what happened earlier in the week with the players from the Chargers and the players from the Rams getting after it in practice. And again, sometimes you like to see that level of competitive spirit in training camp. I certainly think two teams with first-year head coaches don't mind a little fire when it comes to their practices. And of course, we've got the new StubHub Center. Here's a quote from Philip Rivers about playing in the new venue. Remember, they had the chance to practice here only once prior to playing. Quote, Rivers after the practice, "It was good to get a feel of it. As a passer, I like to get the sight lines and all your depth perception and all those things kind of situated, where play clocks are, all those things that obviously you have all of preseason to do. But every time you come in here, you want to take advantage of it." So Rivers is some of the things that we don't think about all the time. Where the play clock's located. That's kind of important for a quarterback to know. No familiarity for the Chargers in their brand new stadium, at least not yet.
Nope. Kellen Clemens will back him up. He's been in the league since 2006. And you also have Cardell Jones as the third string. Antonio Gates on Jones. Quote, "The ceiling's unlimited for him. Whether or not he gets there all depends on the ability to process things, on the ability to work hard and to make the sacrifices he needs to make in the classroom and on the field." And he's been doing a great job of that so far. Pete Carroll, I saw 30 and 14 against the spread in the preseason. Well, we're calling it 30, 13 and 1. Excuse me. That's 28-16 straight up. The biggest battle is for number 2, the backup to Russell Wilson, Boykin, who's had some off-the-field issues and been arrested. You also have the German Austin Davis. The plan is to carry only 2 quarterbacks on game day, Teddy.
Yeah, and look, when you talk about the Charger side of the equation, the quarterbacks are pretty clear. Rivers is going to be the starter. Clemens is going to be the 2. Cardell Jones is the development quarterback, a guy that does have tremendous upside, a guy that won a national championship coming off the bench as a third stringer in college, but a guy that's done nothing at the NFL level yet. When it comes to Seattle, the number 1 solidified. Obviously, we know who Russell Wilson is going to be their starter, but this is a real battle between 2 quarterbacks for that number 2 job, Trevon Boykin and Austin Davis. So these are the type of things that we like in the month of August, because you know that you're going to get good play calling, an opportunity for both of these guys. and there's a ton of upside for the two QBs as they try to prove something to everyone else. Throw in the fact that Carroll's track record is stellar. And again, when you talk about preseason line tracking, even let's look at last night's game. There were line movements all over the place. However you chose to grade them, you could have chose, so I'm not worried about a 30-13 ATS versus 30-14 ATS. The bottom line is Carroll's been very, very good in these type of ball games, and he's got a couple of QBs that may well be bet on in this situation. You got that quote from Carroll that you want to give right here?
Well, let me just say this. He really cares. He always cares about these games. He's a lunatic. He's running down the field and on the sidelines for whatever reason. He wants to win the preseason games. The battle for the number 2 spot, Carroll, both guys are making progress. Both are commanding the offense okay. It will come down to game time and how they play in games. It will really be pivotal for those guys. So we'll see who wins that battle with the Seahawks. And we'll see if the off-the-field issues play a role.
Yeah, and Trevon Boykin, another quarterback that's going to get a higher grade in preseason than in the regular season just because of that mobility. He tends to be, we love these guys who can scramble for a first down on 3rd and long. Trevon Boykin certainly has that in his repertoire.
All right, money time play of the day. Let's try another dog. Back to the Saturday game. Rams at home catching 3 against the Cowboys. Betting number 276. Gurley was something to prove after a disappointing season. Goff was something to prove. Again, McVay doesn't care that you were the number 1 pick. That was before he was there. He's trying to build something in L.A. with that horrible offense they had last year. They won this game last year. Let's see if they can win it again. Rams to beat the Cowboys, and better yet, we're getting 3 at home. That's the play of the day. Fun weekend preview edition. Enjoy all the NFL action. We're back Monday on SportsBet. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.